I remember sitting at home watching Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless in preparation for a class. I can see why he is known as one of the originals in terms of the French New Wave, but something else struck me while watching Breathless. The filmmaking, the editing, the brisk pace, the references to world cinema, it all felt familiar. Then it clicked. A modern director I really admire is Edgar Wright. His films are very enjoyable, and his approach to storytelling is pretty innovative and entertaining to watch. After finishing Breathless, I knew there had to be some connection. Shortly after the passing of Godard on September 13th, 2022, directors came out to pay tribute to the artist, including Wright. In a tweet, he explained how Godard inspired so many people to just pick up a camera and film something, which included himself. Wright continued by tweeting, "As one of a zillion examples I discovered while making my Spark stock that myself and Russell Mael had made 25 years apart, near identical Breathless and Godard spoofs at college. His was Très Siro, and mine was A Baudet le Montsouffle." As we learned from this revelation, Godard did have an influence on Wright's career. But let us go deeper into how each of their works are similar, and why I believe Edgar Wright to be the Jean-Luc Godard of the 21st century. I mentioned how both of these directors make references to world cinema, particularly American cinema, and they do this by using their characters as a driving force to embrace, but at the same time, poke fun at certain aspects of it. Michel Picard, in the film Breathless, fancies himself as some Humphrey Bogart type of character, who lives life on the edge and mimics the same body language. There is a moment in the film in which he comes across a movie theater and sees the picture of Bogart outside. As he stares at the picture, he strokes his bottom lip. Throughout the whole film, Michel tries to be like Bogart's on-screen persona, but as you would probably expect, it doesn't work out. Danny Butterman in Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz yearns for some real excitement as a police officer, after growing up on many action films like
Point Break or Bad Boys 2.
As you can imagine, this film pokes fun at the action genre, specifically the buddy cop film. A humorous example of this is Nicholas Angel doing paperwork, which is an aspect of actual police work that gets left out of those kinds of films. Nonetheless, Wright still finds a way to make the mundane look exciting, with flashy and over-the-top editing. By the end, Hot Fuzz fully embraces the nature of this genre, with an epic shootout through the village of Sanford. I find these aspects of their films to be an entertaining examination on how international cinema, whether it's from America or anywhere else, can influence and impact others around the world, really driving home that cinema, or storytelling, is universal. What were one of the elements of Breathless that made it stick out back in 1960? The editing. With its jump cuts and striking transitions between scenes, the film made quite the impression on audiences back then. Nowadays, Edgar Wright is heralded as one of the kings of film editing. Let's break down two different scenes, one from Breathless and the other from Hot Fuzz. Near the end of the film, after Patricia informs the police of Michel's whereabouts, Michel mentions his means of payment and escape by shouting, "Verrouillé! Verrouillé!" which is then used as a transition from one scene to the next, as Michel stands outside on the street, getting Baruti's attention. Now let's look at something similar in Hot Fuzz. Danny is showing Nicholas his favorite action films, and before pressing play on Bad Boys 2, he says with excitement,
"It's nothing, man. This is about to go off."
Which then transitions us to a house exploding. The dialogue in each of these examples works as a transition, because the dialogue itself fits within the context of both scenes, despite the difference between them. Another thing that is interesting about this moment in Breathless is that it also uses a technique similar to the one used just moments before, the one I mentioned in Hot Fuzz, that being match on action as a transition from one scene to the next. In Breathless, it is a cut from Michel raising his hand in one scene to Michel extended it outwards in the next. In Hot Fuzz, it is a cut from George Merchant being hit on the head and falling down to Nicholas lying down on a couch. The cut in each film is almost seamless and gives us a smooth segue into the following scene. This approach from both of the directors speaks to how the power of editing can really enhance a film. Editing is a powerful tool, but so is cinematography. There's at least one shot in Breathless where the camera will just be following a character around through the environment. This is the same case with Edgar Wright's Shaun of the Dead. When Michel goes to a building to receive money from an associate, Sonny, the camera follows him through the room and lasts for a good amount of time. While this happens, we get some exposition from Michel and Sonny through conversation. In Shaun of the Dead, we follow Shaun as he leaves his house and walks along the street all the way to the nearby shop. This shot ends up getting repeated later for comedic effect, as he is completely unaware of the undead civilians around him due to his monotonous day-to-day life. What these two scenes achieve through their cinematography is that they both manage to invite us into the world of these films and give us necessary exposition, not only for the environment, but for the characters and their situations as well. Breathless does this by sharing some history between Michel and Sonny, giving us a little bit of insight into their characters, while simultaneously moving the plot forward as Michel tries to get his money. In the case of Shaun of the Dead, the shot done in this scene visually shows us Shaun's neighborhood, but also gives us insight into his character, as it represents how he has been living for who knows how many years of his life, and marks the precursor of who he becomes by the end of the film. Just like editing, cinematography can be a vital tool for storytelling. We see how similar their works are, but why do I consider him to be the Godard of this century? I think this quote from Dr. Neil Archer, senior lecturer from Keele University, sums it up well. He explains, Godard was constantly thinking about what you can do with different shots and with different sequences of shots. His unconventional approach to linear editing and meta-narrative can be found in unexpected places today, like Edgar Wright, the director of Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. While his stories may be radically different and fantastical, Edgar Wright very much emulates the same energy and wild creative spirit of Godard. This is certainly not to take any credit away from Wright. He has made his own contributions to the world of cinema, just like Godard, and is one of my favorite directors. The artistry and creativity of Godard and Wright is something I strive for in my own life, and is certainly the case for many other young aspiring storytellers around the world.